So maybe some of you have seen this quote before on the internet in one way or another, and it's something that I've thought about a decent amount. With the onset of AI-generated art, AI-generated scripts, AI-generated music, even AI-generated video, a lot of people in the creative industry have grown deeply concerned with the future of their careers. It even led to a huge number of writers going on strike last year. And it's a legitimate thing to be worried about. I mean, if you've dedicated your whole life and career to something, what are you supposed to do if that thing is replaced by a robot? Now, to be clear, this isn't only an issue in the creative sector, and I want everybody to keep that in mind because I see a lot of people approaching it from the angle that they wanted the boring jobs to get replaced first, but instead the fun art jobs got replaced first, so now everybody will be working boring, depressing jobs for the rest of their life. And it's a little insensitive because there are lots of people who work those quote-unquote boring jobs in order to make a living, and so we shouldn't be wishing for them to lose their livelihoods. It's bad for anybody to lose their job, no matter what field they're in. Honestly, technology replacing jobs has been a problem across all industries for a pretty long time. For example, horse breeders were replaced by automobiles, lamplighters were replaced by electrification, blacksmiths were replaced by industrial forging, portrait painters were replaced by cameras, phone operators were replaced by automated junctions, acoustic musicians were replaced by synthesizers and digital samples, and cashiers were replaced by self-checkout kiosks. Now, of course, these jobs weren't completely eradicated, as we still do have horse breeders and cashiers and even lamplighters apparently, but their frequency has certainly been decreased with the introduction of new technologies. And likewise, a similar thing is currently happening in the creative sector. Now, with creative jobs, it all depends on the type of art being made, which I think fundamentally can be placed in two different categories. There is high art, the kind that you see in art museums, the kind that wins Oscars and Pulitzer Prizes, the kind that is all about the heart and soul put into it and the meaning that the artist tries to convey to the audience, the kind that's all about the craft itself, essentially. Jobs involving that kind of art are probably never going to be replaced by AI because it's the human touch that makes people appreciate it. Even today, most people agree that while AI art is a cool concept, it's not the real deal and it's not going to replace all human art. It's similar to sports actually, because we have made robots that can play soccer or chess or whatever, but you never see them competing in professional leagues because people want to see an actual human play sports and not a machine. Now, the other type of art, I like to call it decorative or functional art. It's the kind that you have as a wallpaper on your computer or as the background of a website or on your wall in the living room to make the wall look less boring, or the kind that's played in the background in shopping malls. Its main purpose is to serve as a decoration, a backdrop, rather than carry some sort of meaning for the audience to interpret, kind of like stock footage in a way. Or for example, I'm not going to name any names, but a lot of music artists today are labeled as industry plants whose sole job is to make generic, catchy music in order to sell records and make money. Now, I'm not trying to diss anybody who makes this kind of art because there's nothing wrong with it and it does still require skill to make, but its inherently basic, superficial nature means that it's the kind that is going to be, and frankly already is being, replaced by AI. The only argument I don't really get is when people say AI has dealt a fatal blow to the creative sector and now it's going to be basically impossible to make a career in that industry. The thing is that it's always been basically impossible to make a career in that industry, even before all this AI stuff. The artistic industry is basically the biggest example of survivorship bias that exists, because for every Taylor Swift out there, there are hundreds of thousands of artists who are just as good as her, if not better, but you never hear about them because they spend their entire lives playing in restaurants for like $50 a night and barely making a living. There's even a whole joke like, what's the difference between a musician and a pizza? A pizza can feed a family of 4. It's always been very, very hard to make a substantial amount of money with an artistic job, and you usually have to get super lucky in order for that to happen. One of the main reasons I chose not to pursue an arts major in college is because of how hard it is to find a well-paying job in that industry. Of course, maybe these people are specifically talking about small artists who sell commissioned drawings on Instagram or whatever, but from what I can tell, most of those artists do those drawings as a side gig and it's not their only source of income. So while it does suck that AI interfered with their monetary gains, their ability to make a living has not been compromised. And if it was their only source of income, then I do feel bad for them and hopefully they can find another way to make money. But again, technology taking people's jobs is not a new thing. It's a cycle that has existed for well over a century at this point. And I agree that it's a problem, but it's one that's very difficult to solve because, I mean, banning companies from using technology would be pretty stupid, so I guess you could make them give the worker another position instead of laying them off, or help them find another job. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think could be a solution. And you gotta remember, art is one of those things that you should do primarily because you like doing it and not for the money it makes. Like, just because a program can make drawings or music doesn't mean your ability to do those things suddenly becomes worthless. So I'm not saying don't pursue the arts because it's hard to make money from it. I'm just saying you should do it because you actually like doing it and keep it as a hobby while having a stable job for your main source of income. Because that way, if you get lucky and your hobby makes you rich and famous, congratulations, good for you. But if you don't get rich and famous from it, at least you'll have something to fall back on while still being able to make the art that you enjoy making. And that's the end of today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, this was your captain speaking. I'll see you later.